Hey all, I was privileged this week to be a part of a press conference that happened here in Seaford with Governor John Carney and a whole bunch of organizations. And it was to celebrate a grant given to an organization that's faith-based, that is doing a lot of really good work in the community with underprivileged people, with the needy people, with those who could really use their help. It was fantastic. It was a wonderful event. But as I looked around, it was kind of interesting to what you could see. You had the governor, you had state officials, you had local officials, different politicians, many whom don't agree with each other in their values in a lot of things. You had various nonprofit organizations there, some of who actually end up competing for the same resources. You had different churches represented, often that have different beliefs or traditions that aren't the same. You had a police and hospital and a whole bunch of things, and all of them, these desperate group of people that are not necessarily in line with each other, gathered together because there was a common purpose and a common goal to celebrate that day. And it got me thinking about the power of together. John Maxwell, a leadership guru, said this. I'm going to read it to make sure I got it right. He said this: "Nothing of significance was ever achieved by an individual acting alone. Look below the surface and you will find that all seeming solo acts are really team efforts." It's true in a case like this where all kinds of elements had to come together in order to accomplish something. It's true in companies, it's true in civic organizations, and nowhere is that more true than in the church. There's power in coming together around a common purpose, but what sets the church apart is that we don't just come around a common purpose, although we do have a common purpose, but we gather together, we come together around a common person. And when we do that, the power in together is amazing. So why don't we do that more? I was reflecting, why does this happen so rarely? Why is it so significant when it occurs? And there's probably lots of reasons, but there's two that I can think of. One is that we have a tendency to look at differences before commonalities. When we see other people, we look at how they're different from us, how they believe different, how their policies are different. When we look at it in terms of a church, we look at how the theology is different or their practices are different. And so we zero in and we focus on the differences rather than on the things that unite. Now within the church, within companies, you do that around a common purpose or a common drive, whether that's growing your stock price or producing a good product. But within a church, it always comes back to the person of Jesus. That's our common ground. It's the thing that we have in common that unites us. And I wonder sometimes if we begin there, we begin to find some other common grounds, other things that are the same, rather than focusing firstly on what's different. I think this would revolutionize politics if we did it that way. But I think there's a second reason. And it's simply this: we too often believe the worst about people instead of the best. Jesus had this tendency, as he interacted with people, to see them as they are, but to see them for who they could be, for how God designed them, for what they're like. And he could address their sin patterns, their problems, but still look into the future and say, but this is how you should live. This is how it could be different. And what that did is it made him so attractive to people because they didn't feel judged, because he wasn't just judging them or criticizing them or believing the worst, but instead seeing the best as God designed it to be. And I wonder sometimes if what prevents us from being together is that we look at other people and we see the worst. We believe the worst. We impute motives that aren't there, rather than believe that, in fact, it might actually be the best, or best intentions, or that there might be some real positives behind that. So here's my challenge to you. Anytime you're struggling with other people, where you're feeling like we need to isolate or come together and ignore other people, instead of doing that, look for common ground. Don't look for differences. Look for where you share something value, somewhere where you can kind of come together first before you discuss differences. And when you find yourself judging other people, being critical of them, instead of believing the worst, try believing the best first and going from there. Maybe that would change everything and we would truly experience the power of together. Till next time.